Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, for convening this hearing, and I do want to thank our panel for their patience and their extraordinary testimony, extraordinary efforts to stop fraud and abuse. I do want the chairman to know that I had my very first vanilla cappuccino.
Yay. And
You
was it
know,
wonderful?
well, I'm not going to become a latte liberal. I'm from the Midwest. We just drink plain old coffee all the time. But I do appreciate your effort. Having said that, I just want to join everyone on this panel to say we're against fraud and abuse. We're against taxpayers footing the bill. And just to look through some of this extraordinary testimony, I'm just looking, for example, with Ms. Simon, with your testimony. I mean, who knew identity theft, synthetic identity, account takeover, phishing schemes, benefit cards, skimming, bribery schemes, self-dealing, document fraud, bot attacks. I mean, not to mention places like Wisconsin, where our technology for unemployment, and I think you made this point, Mr. Osaro Angelo, it was from 1970. I don't even think you have to be all that bright to figure out how to breach something like that. That being said, you know, at the beginning of the pandemic, 22 million people lost their jobs due to no fault of their own. And just looking at the material here, it seems like we had a surge of like 33 million extra unemployment claims. And one of the things that I guess I want to hear from the panel is we had a hearing earlier on this committee, on the full committee on unemployment fraud, and it seemed that there was a tremendous effort going to be put into going after fraud for people who may not even have known that they got an overpayment. I mean, there might have been somebody who got an overpayment of $1,200 they didn't deserve, but we had expanded unemployment benefits. They may not have even known. And so I just want to hear from you, maybe Ms. Miller, Ms. Simon, maybe Mr. Osaro Angelo, if I'm running out of time. What were the benefits versus the losses that we had in rescuing people from poverty, making sure that some people could pay their mortgages, keep up with their bills, continue consumer spending? And what message does it send for us to expend government resources running after, you know, Joanne Smith, who got $1,500 she didn't deserve and may not have even known that she didn't deserve it? Ms. Miller.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you're raising is a really, really good point about risk. And when we talk about fraud, and certainly GAO is the expert in this area, focusing on risk is really important. We're not going to get back all the dollars, and they're not all equal. When we're talking about organized crime rings and nation-state actors, that's who we need to be focusing on, not someone who got an extra $1,500. And it's really important because we don't have the resources anyways, right, to go back and try to go after that money. And we don't want to send that message that it's, you know, we're turning the United States into some sort of police state where we're trying to make sure that everybody only gets exactly what they're entitled to. That's why we want to use risk, and that's why we want to use data and technology so that we can focus those efforts on those most serious, most egregious actors that are operating rings, and we can do that using technology. And then, you know, when we have additional resources, the priorities need to be set by the agencies, but the priorities should not be on the small dollar frauds. The priority should be on the large nation state and organized crime rings, and that's where I think all of us up here are in agreement that should be the focus.
Mr. Osaro Angelo.
Thank you for your question. First of all, as far as the overpayments, I'm proud that NASWA, which I mentioned before, which includes my counterparts across the country, voted in a unanimous and bipartisan manner to urge Congress to waive all non-fraudulent pandemic-related unemployment compensation overpayments. The amount of time and staff needed to pursue these non-fraud overpayments with a very low return absolutely undermines our efforts at fighting current and future fraud. Just real quick, I also want to mention, we keep talking about as if there's one unemployment system. There are 53 different systems. I mean, if you want to solve or have a way better handle on the fraud, have more tools from the Department of Labor where all states can be talking to each other, where there's one set of applications, one set of security procedures, one set of anti-fraud measures. By these fraudsters being able to pick and choose, they couldn't be happier. And whatever we can do to be talking more, and we do a lot of this through NASWA. I'm very proud of our work on these efforts. The IDH was mentioned before. I must say, though, even though it was only 36 in 2020, it wasn't as important then because it was only regular UI. So we always had the employers as the backstop. PUA made the IDH really important. So I think whatever we do can consolidate our efforts across the states and in the federal government, we should be able to do.
Thank you. My time has expired. Thank you for your indulgence, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.